The best trends for you to follow in 2025. Number 1 is the bowling bag. This bag is very interesting and a big trend for 2025. The coolest thing about this bag is that it is a wide bag, i.e., you can put a lot of things inside it, but without a messy look, without that sloppy. The idea here is a classic bag. In other words, you will have a bag to use by the rest of your life. And that is precisely why it is a good investment. I recommend that you opt for good quality material. The material may be synthetic, yes, but if you have the option to buy a leather bag, especially if that bag is a thrift store bag, you will be getting an excellent deal. The bowling bag is generally worn in the hands, like a handbag, or at most on the shoulders. However, several brands introduce that little detail, that link on the outside, precisely so you can add an extra strap and, with that, be able to use to bag in more comfortable and practical ways for everyday life. Regarding colors, you can be creative and choose the color you prefer. In 2025, when it comes to colors, we have a great emphasis on tones like red burgundy and also brown, which can be either a coffee brown or a chocolate brown. All of these are very popular. As it is a structured bag, but with more rounded finishes, it suits both more casual and elegant looks. This means that you will have a very versatile bag for everyday use. It's a bag that I recommend for women who do a lot of activities. So, that woman who needs to go to work, pick up her children, go to the gym, or, suddenly, do you have another hobby? Since it is large, it holds a good amount of things, while at the same time being able to accompany you in a wide variety of environments without becoming too conspicuous. It is not that classic bag that, if you take it, for example, to a slightly more casual environment, it will attract a lot of attention or it will look disjointed. No, it is a very versatile bag. Of course, it will also depend a little on the finish and color, but in general, it is a very traditional bag that can go very well between environments and tasks. That's precisely why I put it here as one of the main trends worth following in 2025. Number 2 is white jeans. White jeans, or raw jeans, are an excellent purchase for any woman. This is because it will replace white tailored pants, which, depending on the fabric, can have that uncomfortable transparency. Furthermore, jeans generally do not have any artificial additions to the fabric, which means they are made of cotton, which is precisely why they are more comfortable, softer, and more breathable. Because it is a slightly thicker material, it is also very resistant to weather, which is a big problem when we are talking about white pants. After all, white pants can usually show stains or wear over time. And then, as you wash them, these pants may end up tearing or becoming more transparent. With jeans, this problem will be reduced, as we are talking about a material with high resistance. This means that, even if you need to remove a stain, it won't suffer as much as traditional tailored pants, especially those with slightly thinner synthetic fabric. Another interesting thing is that jeans are very versatile, so it will accompany you on various occasions, from slightly more casual moments to elegant moments. And as here we are talking about light jeans, which can vary between white and off-white, this means that you can wear them very easily, both at a party, if it is a slightly more casual party, and in the workplace, at a dinner. In other words, it is a very practical and versatile piece for you to wear in your everyday life. Furthermore, jeans are usually affordable. This means that you won't need to spend a lot of money to add this piece to your wardrobe. Nowadays, it is possible to find it in online stores for very affordable prices. And of course, because we're talking about jeans, it brings that base to several styles. This means it will suit you, even if your style is elegant or super creative. It will serve as a base, and the pieces you combine with it will be the pieces that dictate to which way does your style go. In other words, it is a piece that is worth investing in, regardless of your style or your body, as it flatters most women. Number 3 is the Chanel jacket. This type of jacket, we can say, is very classic and very traditional. The most interesting thing about this type of piece is that it is a piece that you can use regardless of your age. This means it will look just as good on a 15-year-old girl as it will on a 90-year-old woman. It will bring that more sophisticated look, but without weighing it down. And, as it is a super classic piece, it will add that timeless air to your look. Regarding this type of piece, one concern must be the fabric. Generally, the material of this type of jacket is a little thicker, which doesn't work very well in the summer. However, it is possible to find slightly thinner models that are pleasant, even if you are in a hotter place. I highly recommend this piece. First, because it is a timeless piece, this means it never goes out of style. It's a piece that, once you have it, you'll be able to use for the rest of your life. Another point is that it is a piece that goes very well with both more elegant and sophisticated looks and slightly more casual looks. You can wear it with a super elegant dress or with jeans and a t-shirt. In other words, it is a piece that again goes very well between different environments and occasions. Regarding colors, black, white, and at most, gray are the most traditional colors for this type of piece. But you can also choose other colors that match your wardrobe more. Nowadays, we have a very wide variety of this type of piece in online stores, such as Shein, which allows you to choose the one that will fit most perfectly into your style. As a recommendation, I would say that simpler models, without much information, will be easier to combine in your everyday life. So, if you're looking for a more versatile piece, avoid pieces with lots of details or even prints. The idea here is to stick to the classic and traditional, because that never goes out of style. Number 4 is the sneaker trend. In 2025, sneakers made a comeback, driven by the sportswear trend, which now appears associated with other more traditional and elegant items, such as tailoring. The idea here is to invest in comfortable sneakers that match most of your daily activities. Of course, slightly larger and more robust models, as well as more colorful models, are trending this year. But I highly recommend that you invest in that model that will suit you and that will match most of your clothes. Personally, I really like the gray models, which match my wardrobe more, and also the white models, which tend to be that classic. This doesn't mean that you can't invest, for example, in yellow or red sneakers, which are also appearing a lot when it comes to trends. The idea of sneakers here is to make your everyday life easier. That's precisely why I mentioned that it needs to be comfortable and it needs to match the other pieces you have. Avoid buying sneakers that have a lot of information, especially if your style is street style or a more casual style, because you will find it difficult to wear. My golden tip is to invest in basic sneakers that fit the foot better, that don't have such a thick sole or very flashy colors. An example is the classic white sneaker. This is because it goes well with shorts, pants, dresses, skirts. In other words, it is much more versatile than colorful models or very heavy and structured models. Of course, this will vary depending on your style. And that's precisely why here on the channel I always talk about the importance of personal style. You can choose whatever you want, as long as it matches the pieces you already have, because otherwise it really ends up becoming a loss. And we don't want that, right? We always want to buy good quality pieces that will last and that will match our style and personality. So choose a comfortable sneaker model that accompanies you in most of your daily activities, and I'm sure you won't regret it. And tell me, which 2025 trend is paying off the most for you? For me, a trend that is really paying off is accessories in slightly different tones in my case. Gray, as this is a color that looks really good on me. So I'm investing in bags, shoes, everything else focused on this gray color that is becoming a turning point in my closet. Tell me yours in the comments. Take advantage and help me by putting today's magic words, which are Trends 2025. I count on your help. While you do that, we continue with the video. Number 5 is the asymmetrical blouse trend. The most interesting thing about the asymmetrical blouse is that, in addition to being elegant, it also brings a touch of modernity and creativity. It is a very beautiful piece, and, depending on the material and also the cut, you can create beautiful and super elegant looks. You can, for example, combine a more satiny asymmetrical blouse with those white jeans that I mentioned earlier. You're welcome. What a beautiful and elegant look. You can combine this with a thin strap sandal, which is that classic, that look that will never go out of style. In other words, it is a piece that works very well. Additionally, it will make your shoulders appear a little shorter, which will help if you have problem with broad shoulders if it bothers you. It's also a practical piece because generally when I bring here, for example, off-the-shoulder blouses, you comment on the difficulty of wearing these blouses and how they tend to ride up. In other words, they are neither comfortable nor practical to use. Now, the blouse asymmetric, you won't have this problem. Its cut is made so that it maintains that shape. So, it doesn't matter if you lift your shoulders, move your arms, it will stay in place, maintaining that same aesthetic. Asymmetrical blouses also convey that air of goddess, which I have commented a lot here on the channel, especially when they are used together with other elements such as light tones and pleated or draped. This combination conveys a lot of femininity and just the right amount of sensuality, and is simply beautiful, especially if you combine this blouse with a skirt. A draped skirt, for example, looks beautiful. So, it is a very practical blouse to wear on a daily basis. Furthermore, it is a cool blouse, ideal for the warmer seasons, but also for cities where the climate tends to be a little more tropical. In other words, you can look modern and elegant without having to be very hot, without having to feel uncomfortable, and without having to adjust your blouse, which, as I mentioned, is one of the biggest complaints you bring here to the channel in relation to other types of blouses. So, if you want to invest in a trend that, in addition to being on the rise in fashion, will also make your day easier and bring a difference to your looks, I highly recommend the asymmetrical blouse. Number 6 is the classic wrap dress. The wrap dress or wrap dress is a great addition to your closet. It is not that piece that is super trendy, however. It is a timeless piece. This means it never goes out of style, and you can combine it with other trends. At the moment we have, for example, cherry red, burgundy red. So why not buy a wrap dress in these colors? Or in that more pro-oriented tone chocolate mousse, which is also on the rise. You can go for it with this wrap dress. You know that the wrap dress is one of my favorites because it's that dress that you can always count on. It will work on any body type. This means that it doesn't matter if you are a thinner or thicker woman, chubby. It doesn't matter if you're tall or short, if you have a lot of hips or not enough hips, a lot of waist or a small waist, this dress will flatter all women, regardless of weight, height, age, or body type. And that's precisely why I think he's incredible. Another detail is that it is a dress that stays with you for a long time, as you can tie it regardless of the size of your belly. So, even a woman who has, for example, been pregnant, will be able to wear this dress throughout her pregnancy and continue wearing it afterwards. It is a very practical dress. It's that piece that, once you buy it in a good fabric, you'll want to wear every day. Furthermore, the dress is always a practical piece, as you don't need to think too much. With a dress, you can simply put on this piece, choose shoes and a bag, and you're ready. You don't need to think about which blouse will go with which skirt, or which pants or shorts. In other words, it is a piece that is definitely worth your money. I recommend that you always buy a piece made from a good fabric that has good durability, because this way it will accompany you for many years. Number 7 is low heels, and that includes both shoes and boots. The idea here is to invest in a piece that has a heel of no more than 2 or 3 centimeters. This will bring a lot of comfort and practicality to your everyday life. If you're not that woman who needs to wear high heels for a long time, if you don't work in a place that requires this type of piece, I highly recommend this type of heel. It is smaller, more comfortable, but maintains its elegance. You can invest in it in both shoes and sandals, as well as boots. Boots, in fact, are a great idea, because often, when it comes to boots, we stick to very high heels or those flat-soled boots, which I know not all of you like. Some think they are not as beautiful, so why not invest in this lower heel? Furthermore, this type of low heel remains very fashionable in 2025 and will certainly continue over the next few years. The most interesting thing is that, as it's not such a high heel, It will go with both more casual pieces and slightly more elegant pieces. You can wear low-heeled shoes or boots with shorts, for example, and it won't look too daring. On the contrary, it will look very beautiful and elegant. That's what I find most interesting about this piece. Regarding colors and materials, in 2025, we are having the phenomenon of new neutrals. This means that, in addition to traditional black and white, we also have, for example, the presence of burgundy, brown, and gray. This means that, when you buy your shoes or boots, you can keep this in mind. Another type of piece that I think looks really nice associated with this slightly smaller heel are two-tone shoes, which will bring a more classic and traditional look. This two-tone shoe is super interesting if you need to be in an environment that always feels a little more classic. And it will match other items that we mentioned here previously, such as the Chanel coat and also the white jeans. In other words, it is an excellent purchase for you to have in your wardrobe and use very easily in your daily life. And if you like this video, you will also like the videos that come out here on the channel every day. Remembering that we have videos on our Portuguese channel at 8 p.m. and on our English channel at 7 p.m., always with the same content. So, just choose the language you prefer. So, subscribe and activate the bell. This way, every day, when a new video comes out, YouTube will notify you and you will continue to stay up to date with the main trends and beauty tips. I'm counting on your registration, huh? So let's continue with the video. Number 8. It's the skirt midi, especially the skirt's double-breasted midi. This type of skirt, as well as the wrap dress, works for all women, especially women who suffer from weight fluctuations and women who are pregnant, as you will be able to wear this skirt for longer. Regarding length midi, I know he doesn't favor shorter women as much. However, what you can do is hire one seamstress who will measure this skirt and make it the perfect length according to your height. This will certainly make your life a lot easier. The length midi, it's very classic and, at the same time, has that more casual touch. The interesting thing about the skirt is that it can be worn in both winter and summer. This means that we have a piece here for every season. In terms of colors and prints, we will have a very wide variety. So, you can vary from a very soft floral, aimed at style boho, even a piece entirely made of leather. This means that exists, yes, for all tastes. Personally, I prefer less patterned models. I prefer those models that only have a single color and that have a slightly more classic look. If you can find a wrap skirt that has other traditional elements, such as pleated, you will also make a great choice. Another positive point of this type of skirt is that, depending on the material, you will be able to wear it both in more formal environments and in slightly more casual environments. In other words, you can use it both in the workplace and at a party, or even at a slightly more casual and fun dinner or lunch. It's a feminine piece that works great with sandals, closed shoes, and even sneakers. In other words, you can combine it with other items previously mentioned here on the list. If you are looking for a skirt that really, it's worth your money, just choose a wrap skirt model that matches the pieces you already have in your wardrobe. Remembering, mother priority for a color that will be the base. Avoid choose a very printed skirt, especially if it is very different from what you usually wear on a daily basis. Despite models such as leopard and zebra are on the rise, I know that not all of you will want to use them so often. So, give preference if you don't already have this piece to a model that you imagine yourself using every day. Because I'm sure that, after you buy a skirt like this, that's exactly what you'll want to do. Number 9. It's the graphic t-shirt. T-shirts with some type of print are back in fashion, and the most interesting thing about this piece is that it is very casual and suitable for those days when you want a slightly more comfortable and casual look. Personally, I really like these t-shirts to wear in environments like the gym or for that slightly more unpretentious trip to the mall or the market. It is also a piece that conveys a lot of personality. This is something that I love about t-shirts, as you can put a print on there that has everything to do with your style and also your tastes. I love people who post something that has to do with a hobby, some joke, some inside joke related to a series or a film, because this conveys a lot of personality and personal style. In fact, I love reading t-shirts, so I often find myself staring at someone precisely to read what is written. That's the only problem. If you wear a t-shirt with a phrase on it, someone will probably be standing there looking, trying to read it. These pieces may also feature a slightly more general print. At the moment, we are seeing a lot of fruit prints, for example, or wine-related prints. In fact, I already mentioned here on the channel with you that I have a t-shirt of a kitten with a bottle of wine. Even though I don't drink wine, I find it very interesting because this t-shirt is very cute in addition to several other t-shirts I have that have some kind of phrase on them. Usually something like this, very mild, was matching the lifestyle I like to lead. Regarding colors, I recommend that you get a t-shirt that has the best color for your palette. In my case, the color that suits me the most is blue, grayish. This means that I always prefer t-shirts in this color and tone. If you look great in purple, opt for purple t-shirts. I say this because, as it is a very practical and everyday piece, it is very likely that you will use it often. So, if it's a color that flatters you, you already have an extra point in your favor. Another detail. Regarding the finishing of the collar, you can opt for either a rounded collar or a V-shaped collar. And then, it will also depend on your taste, okay? So just choose that model that you know will look good. That color that you know will look good, and you won't regret it, even if we're talking about a printed piece. When in doubt, choose something that has a lot to do with your personality. I'm sure you'll love following this trend. Number 10. These are the scarves. Scarves are a big trend for 2025 and can be worn in both winter and summer. Scarves are very versatile. They can be used as a way to tie your hair, as a detail on a bag, as a belt, or as a detail around the neck. Scarves can also be used as a top. Guys, the scarf is very versatile. It's that piece that even saves you in a time of need, since with it, you can make anything from a skirt, a top, even a dress, depending on the size of the scarf. They also transform different pieces. For example, by attaching it to a white shirt, you get a completely new effect. Without a doubt, it is a versatile, practical, and inexpensive piece. You will find scarves for very low prices. Of course, these scarves won't be silk. They will be satin. And then, in relation to satin, I always like to add that advice. When buying any piece in satin, give preference to a satin less bright, which don't have that plasticized effect. This is because the brighter the satin, the more polyester it contains, and the more it will give that feeling of warmth, especially if you intend to wear this piece around your neck. You'll be hot. So, if it's a piece to wear against the skin, I really recommend that you invest in silk. Now, if it's a piece to wear just as a hair accessory, holding your hair back, or suddenly on a bag, like a belt, then there's no problem. You can use polyester. But again, avoid those super brillantes, because they look and feel like a plastic bag, and that's not what we're looking for here. The idea here is to always invest in a good piece. A piece that flatters you. A piece that is worthwhile and worth your money. And speaking of pieces that are worth your money, do you already know which pieces this season are most worth your investment? Don't know yet? Then click in this video that is appearing on your screen. I'll wait for you there.